rank up against one another. So if you want to see how these phones compare on the Geekbench scores, which actually don't relate always 100% of the time to real life performance, we're going to actually test out 12 different phones and see how they compare up against one another. So make sure you stay locked in right after this, and I'll see you then. Peace. As expected, the Honor 8X Max came out on top with a score of 1325 in single core and 4861 in multi-score. When we go over to the multi-score arena, we can see that this phone is actually a 4861. So compared to other phones in the segment, that is actually right below the S7 from the Galaxy series. So the Snapdragon 636 is actually very adequate in the mid-range region and actually will keep you running at high performances 100% of the time. I would highly recommend the Honor 8X Max in my real day-to-day testing. So if you like gaming, music, and even the audio speakers that are dual and the 5000 mAh battery that lasts forever, I would highly recommend this phone in the budget segment. Now let's jump over to number 2. Another budget heavy hitter is the G3, the NUU Mobile G3, coming in at 940. We could see here in the single core region. In the multi-score region, we can see that it is a 2789, which is actually pretty high and very definitely stacks up well against other performers. Right here you can see we're getting a 2789 multi-score, which isn't the highest I've ever seen before, but actually competes in the mid-range segment, coming right underneath the Huawei Nexus 6P. So this phone definitely has a really nice hardware, and it actually looks really great and is definitely stacking up in the mid-range segment. A phone that we actually didn't expect to see in the top 3, the Alcatel 7 came out on number 3 with a score of 913 in the single core score region, and we can see in the multi-core score region it was a 3382. Now compared to other phones in the segment, it was actually pretty good. You could see it definitely lacked in the memory department, but right here when you go over to the multi-core scores, when we did some further testing, it came out at a 3382, and compared to other phones in the arena, it was actually running right below the Note 4 or a little bit higher, and in between the Xiaomi Mi 5, which was actually more of a higher spec than we had actually expected. But running PUBG on this device, we did notice that we could game in actually HD, which was actually a surprise in the mid-range segment and entry-level department. So the hardware was actually really good on this device with the plastic body and aluminum build, and it actually did feel good in the hand. Actually, the corners are actually plastic as well, so definitely want to keep that in mind. But you are getting the IR blaster and Type-C charging with an adequate 4000 mAh battery that actually is sufficient throughout the day. So let's jump on to the 4th phone. Now the Poptel P10 was a phone that surprised me, definitely coming in an entry-level segment of only $175, but the single score was actually 828, multi of 2486, and with the 4 gigabytes of RAM and 64 gigabytes of ROM, it was actually adequate and actually propelled the Poptel P10 to the 4th spot. So actually you can see, compared to other devices with the 2400 score, right here you can see it does actually stack up right below the Xiaomi Redmi Note 3 and the Motorola Nexus 6 with a waterproof build, dustproof, and shatterproof. You can throw this thing around and not expect any damage whatsoever with the rugged design and build. So at number 4, this phone was actually quite impressive, just to say the least, that it ranks so high on the list. Now let's jump on to number 5. Back in 2016, the company right here, PPTV released the PPTV King 7S with 3 gigs of RAM and 32 gigabytes of storage, but it did have 2K resolution with the 3D display jammed underneath, leaving you with the ability to actually enjoy hi-fi surround sound with glasses free 3D system on the display, which was actually pretty cool. Coming in at only $100 in 2018, I highly recommend this device because of the high performance it always gave me, and it came at a 821 single core score with a multi-score of 2542. This phone actually is running on the Android 5.1, so just keep that in mind. And with the 2500, you are looking at the OnePlus 2 arena. So, this phone is comparable to the Xiaomi Redmi Note 3 and the OnePlus 2. And definitely with the 6-inch display that has a 2K resolution and a nice 3300 millihour battery, this phone definitely was one of my favorites for 2017 and 18. Let's jump on to number 5. The Freetel Samarai Kiwami has a 2K display and a substantially large battery at 3300 millihours as well. Also, it does have a really nice 6-inch display, but it has Android 5.1. This phone is only $90 and is actually very nice and adequate in 2018. Now you can see for this 6th spot, this is the scores we're getting. Multi-score at a 2850, so when we drag down, you can see it's like a Nexus P and OnePlus 6 II as well. So let's jump to the number 7 phone. And we are getting aluminum and leather back, which is actually really nice and fingerprint free. Right out the box, the BLU ViVo XL4 was a high performer with 3 gigabytes of RAM and 32 gigabytes of ROM. Also with a nice screen display, which is really large. You're getting a 5.7 inch. You can see the score here, and 33 multi-score, which was actually really impressive. So when we jump all the way to 3300s, it's like a Note 4 in its segment, which was a flagship back in the day. So with the performance on this device, the XL4, you are getting a nice premium build with those dual camera systems right here, and you are getting a really nice build quality and overall performance. So let's take a look at the next device. Coming in at number 8 is the STYLO 4. Now the STYLO 4 has a score of 743 and multi of 3200, which means that it's right in the same arena of the Note 4, which was quite impressive, just to say the least. So I did actually replace my STYLO 2 Plus with the I had the Note 4 and I replaced my Note 4 with the STYLO 2 Plus and eventually updated to the STYLO 4 series, which has actually been adequate and definitely a great performer. If you definitely enjoy using a pen exclusively with your smartphone and an adequate battery that lasts a day and a half on normal use. Coming in at number 9 was the Samsung Galaxy Halo, a phone that surprised me right out of the box with its great build quality, great placement for the speakers, really nice 2.5D design, which was very ergonomic. It also kept the home touch buttons on the screen on the bottom, which was definitely something that is very vintage with a removable back and a really nice build quality. I definitely like the Samsung Galaxy Halo in 2019. Now you can see the score right here for it's about 3200, which is actually comparable to the Note 4, just a little bit higher. And this phone is definitely highly recommended from me in the mid-range arena in 2019. It definitely doesn't have some of the cool features like a fingerprint sensor or even facial unlock, but with the pattern and password, it's one of the most highest secure features on the Android system still. So I definitely recommend this phone still, and the battery is very good on this device. We were a little surprised to see the Moto E5 Plus come in at number 9, but with the older Snapdragon of the Snapdragon 435, we expected a lower score, but the performance in real life was actually much better than we anticipated with the scores that it got. So, this is one of those things where you get a phone with 3 gigabytes of RAM, 32 gigabytes of ROM, a very high performer, and with the on paper, it actually looks less impressive than it actually really is, and the cameras are very efficient, and you are getting a 5,000 millihour battery, so this phone will never die, and you're actually getting a really nice shooter on the back. So with the flash on the front and the back, and a really substantially large battery with a nice excellent design, and that just wave design on the back of it, I could highly recommend the Moto E5 Plus, even though it came in at number 10, which was not anticipated. But let's just jump over to the multi scores, and we can see that it definitely ranks up there with the One Plus and the Nexus 6. The Blue Pure View was the really excellent performer. Now this phone is stuck on Android 7.0. If you can get over that, this phone is definitely well recommended. You can play PUBG on here. It's comparable to the Galaxy S5, and it's actually very good performer here. I was impressed with the overall performance of this device, and it had a really good lasting battery and a really nice screen and some decent cameras. Check out my review of all of these phones, and the build quality of this phone was actually excellent. Only at $100 on the Amazon Prime special, this phone was actually a no-brainer. But you could see here the scores were lower than anticipated because it was such a high performer. So let's jump on to number 12, which is the last phone on the Geekbench 4 test. Now the G1 Mobile was definitely a really good performer for the entry level segment. At $99, it came with the Android 8.1 Go program. So basically you were getting really stock and battery efficient, processing efficient, and app efficient phone here. So the Android Go series was for people that I could, like my mother and my grandfather and my dad, I could definitely recommend this phone to them because they don't game. They just want a phone that works, lasts really long, has great speakers and an excellent battery life, and does everything all around really good. And you're getting some really nice build on this as well, and a nice operating system for the Android Go program. So I could definitely recommend the G1 in the entry level region because it definitely met my expectations and actually impressed me in a lot of ways for the price that you're paying. And only $99, you were actually getting a lot in the package, and it did come with this case, and this thing actually did have a 5,000 millihour battery, which was definitely something you can never really see in the entry level segment. But they're actually like doing that now in 2019 and 18, putting really huge batteries in these entry level devices. So if you found this video helpful in any way possible, make sure you hit the like button. Definitely appreciate you guys for watching the Geekbench 4 test to check out some of the performance that we were getting from those 12 phones. Now, if you enjoyed the content, definitely hit the like button. I'll catch you guys on the next video. It's your boy Serrano. Make sure you guys have a great morning, afternoon, evening, and depending where you are, have a great night. Peace.